There's a kind of war going on in the Republican Party over the question, what do Republicans care about more, reducing the deficit or cutting taxes? See, these two things are actually in conflict because in order to reduce the deficit, Republicans need to make deals with Democrats. They need to get that grand bargain. And in order to cut deals with Democrats, they're going to have to put revenues on the table. Democrats will not be willing to do major spending cuts to programs for poor people and seniors if the Republicans simply say, no, sorry, the rich are not going to pay even a dime more. Those Republicans who are solely concerned with taxes have a leader. They have a general, a powerful, unelected enforcer who has achieved an almost mythological status in Washington. He is the second most famous Grover in America. He is Grover Norquist.
Since creating Americans for Tax Reform at Ronald Reagan's behest back in 1985, Norquist has been responsible more than anyone else for rewriting the dogma of the Republican Party.
The Republicans won't raise your taxes. We haven't had a Republican vote for an income tax increase since 1990.
And this was your doing?
I helped. Yeah.
It began with a simple idea of getting Republicans all over the country to sign an oath called the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, promising their constituents that they would never, ever vote for anything that would make their taxes go up.
Speaker Gingrich's tax pledge back in 1998.
And once they signed the pledge, Grover Norquist never forgets. The more signatures he's collected, the more his influence has grown.
I think to win a Republican primary, it is difficult to imagine somebody winning a primary without taking the pledge.
That was CBS's Steve Kroft talking to Grover Norquist back in November. Since then, in Indiana, Republican incumbent Senator Dick Lugar faced a primary challenger. That primary challenger's name was Richard Murdoch. Now, Senator Lugar was one of the Republicans who had refused to sign Norquist's pledge, and so Norquist endorsed Murdoch. And last week, Murdoch defeated six-term Senator Dick Lugar in the Indiana Republican primary. Now, we don't know what Grover Norquist's impact on this race was. After all, he only endorsed a challenger a week before the primary. But still, every time there's another entry in this guy's win column, his no taxes pledge gets a public relations boost. Republicans become more afraid of it. It becomes more powerful. Now, that pledge, Grover Norquist's pledge, says that not only can you not raise a tax rate, but even if you close a tax loophole, so you close a loophole for oil or for jets, that money can't go to the deficit. It has to go back into a tax cut, or else Grover Norquist will consider that a tax hike. For years and years and years, Norquist was an unchallenged force within the Republican Party, a unilateral kingmaker. Over 1,000 lawmakers have signed his pledge. It was practically de rigueur among Republicans. At least it was until about a year ago, when arguably the most conservative Republican in the Senate broke rank.
But if people's taxes go up in some way, it would appear to be a violation of the pledge that you signed with a well-known Americans for Tax Reform, Taxpayer Protection Pledge. This is the group you signed the pledge with. And the second piece of this is that you vowed to oppose any net reduction or elimination of deductions and credits unless matched dollar for dollar by further reducing tax rates. If taxes end up going up in some capacity, would you not be in violation of that pledge?
Well, I think which pledge is most important, David, is the pledge to uphold your oath to the Constitution of the United States, or a pledge from a special interest group who claims to speak for all of American conservatives when in fact they really don't.
A lot of people thought Coburn was crazy for launching this fight, but increasingly he's not alone. In Politico today, Kate Nocera reports that, quote, a small but increasingly vocal group of freshman Republicans are publicly rejecting the idea that they are beholden to Grover Norquist's Americans for Tax Reform pledge. There aren't many of them yet. Norquist notes that only 6 House Republicans have refused to sign the pledge. But Politico reports that, quote, other freshman members privately told Politico they had been struggling with the pledge. It's always been understood that you don't want to be the only House Republican to break the pledge. But you can be one of many who jump to make a deal. If everybody is a heretic, then nobody is. And it seems that more and more Republicans might be mentally preparing themselves to make that jump down the road.